Movies have been entertaining us for a while now, and time again have introduced new ways to bring us that entertainment. Back in the older days, it was bringing films with no sound to films with sound. After that, it was films from black and white to films with color. And then eventually came the introduction of CGI. But what a lot of people don't know is that within that time period came the introduction of 3D. And with 3D came one of the coolest, yet weirdest trends in entertainment history. So, put on your 3D glasses because this is going to be a doozy. So some people believe that 3D started with this masterpiece of a movie called Shark Boy and Lava Girl. And no, that's not me trying to hide the fact that when I was a kid, I used to think that 3D was started by this movie. Alright, it's a very common misconception. Alright, yes it is. Stop looking at me like that. Stop. It's very common. Alright, I'm not an idiot. Stop. Alright, it's very common. Anyway, the experimentation of 3D didn't actually begin until sometime in between this year and this year. I tried finding the exact year when it started, but for some reason it's not out there. So, you know, I tried. It's just in between these 2 years somewhere. And also, it technically wasn't even 3D. It was actually the process of making a 3D image move. It wouldn't be until 1891 when Louis Ducas de Horan, he was French, would introduce the method of reproducing the 3D image, separating them into two images, and then making each image a different color, and then giving glasses with the same colors of each image to the viewer. But then, at least according to this article, some dude named John Anderton comes out of nowhere and is like, what if I could do the same thing, but I don't change the color of the images? And he does just that, because why the hell not? Why not? Now after this, things would then go quiet place for a hot minute, because these new 2D motion pictures, aka movies, would go on to become the new trend until 1903. For you see everybody, Auguste and Louis Lumière, two other Frenchmen, would go on to create L'Arrivée du Train. I think I said that right. This was the first ever 3D motion picture, and it featured people coming off of a train and getting on a train, and the train would just leave again. And although it amazed viewers when it seemed like the train was coming out of the screen, it wasn't as popular as its 2D counterpart that released in 1896. And you'd think 3D would have ended there, but you'd be a complete idiot. You'd be a fool to think that. You'd be stupid. You're dumb if you thought that, because then in 1922, the first ever feature-length 3D film created by Harry K. Farwell would be released to audiences. And 3D doesn't even end right there, because then in 1929, Edwin H. Land would go on to create Stereovision 3D technology. And what is Stereovision 3D? Okay, it's like, it's hard to explain that, all right? It's a lot, it's very detailed. I can't really go into it in this video because that's not what this is about, so I'm gonna leave a video in the description below. Now 3D would actually have more than one golden age, and this was around the time for the first one. You had Beggar's Wedding in 1936, which would be the first ever 3D Stereovision film with sound, and then in 1939 the first American 3D Stereovision film would be released, and then a bunch of other films utilizing and improving upon 3D. That is until the Great Depression. Yeah, since there wasn't a lot of money, they thought it was dumb to keep producing 3D movies, which is totally fair, okay? But that is until the early 2000s, which is when, in my opinion anyway, the true age of 3D would begin. The early 2000s are an absolute gold mine for 3D movies, okay? I know 3D has evolved exponentially throughout the past few years, but the early 2000s with 3D movies, now that is where it's at. In 2003, this man right here, who we'll call James Cameron, because that's actually his name, created the concept of recording 3D films in HD. Yeah, so all of the 3D films you watch today and in glorious HD, this man right here, he is the reason, alright? He created the concept. This guy is a legend. We'll call him Daddy Cameron from now on. That's Daddy Cameron, alright? Now, James Cameron will be very important to 3D later on, but we'll get there when we get there, man. Come on, we'll get there when we get there. Am I right, boss? Hey, how's it going, boss? High five? Alright, I was just joking, man. You're kind of hot. What? I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that, dude. Stop. You're being weird about this. Stop. And this 3D shit, man, it will go hard, alright? It went hard. You got Shrek 3D, which came with the original movie, alright? And it also became like a Universal ride. I don't know why. It's literally the same exact movie. You got Spy Kids 3D as well. That was awesome. Whoa, stop your tracks, because SpongeBob came into the mix too with a 4D kind of experience. It's pretty sick. You ever done it? I've done it. Have you done it? It's pretty cool, just saying. But none of those would really push them 3D doors wide open until 2004, when a little movie by the name of Polar Express, which starred Tom Hanks, would release with not only a standard 2D version, but a 3D version as well. And guess which version did better in the box office? 3D, baby, that's right. If you answered that correctly, give yourself a pat in the back. If you didn't, step on a Lego or something, I don't know. You disappoint me. Now, in the box office, it wasn't like it was by a little bit of money. It was significantly more than the 2D version. And it kind of showed Hollywood that there is a market for 3D movies. And now, movies were releasing in 3D because of Polar Express, if it made sense. Monster House, Night of the Living Dead in 3D, Chicken Little, but none of them would ever come close to the GOAT of 3D movies. The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Maybe that's just me being biased though, I don't know. But I still think it's the GOAT of 3D. That's just me though, that's just me, alright? That's just me. This movie was pretty much my introduction to 3D, and I feel like it's the same for a lot of other people. There was just something about this movie that made it feel like it was on the same level of Endgame and No Way Home, except in hindsight, it's complete ass cheeks. But the 3D, holy shit, the 3D is amazing. It came with these 3D glasses that were Shark Boy and Lava Girl themed, and it was so cool. You could watch George Lopez in freaking 3D, man. That's insane. You know what, even better, you could watch Taylor Lautner. Is that how you say his name? What the hell? How do you say his name? Hold on, I gotta read my script real quick. Taylor Lautner, I think. You could watch him sing and dance in 3D, man.
Just relax, lay about, or my fist will put you out. Dream, 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 dream. Take your time, puppy, well, there's darkness in the air. Dream, 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 dream.
Man, that shit was badass when I was a kid. Not now, though. Not now. Okay, I lied. Yeah, it's still pretty badass. Now, I know you're probably thinking to yourself that this was the true age of 3D, but you'd be wrong, and that's okay, okay? We can't all be winners, all right? You sometimes will suck, and that's okay, all right? I still love you. You remember that weird dude, James Cameron? Yeah, well, you see, this guy, in 2009, would decide that he was going to release the most visually and graphically detailed 3D movie in history. And the title of that movie is called Avatar. This movie would blow 3D to its peak, alright? And actually, this movie was so revolutionary in every aspect of filming that it stayed the #1 grossing film for years. It's still #1, actually. I forgot about that. It is still #1. Holy shit. Dude, this movie is... Dude, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of... Wow, that's a lot of money. Because of the money this movie was making and it pushed in 3D so heavily, a lot of companies want to jump in on that Avatar 3D hype cash. And that lasted a little bit too long. But let's talk about all of the stuff that was made in that time. 3D TVs, which I think we all know about because it was being heavily advertised in every single store. You'd see it, 3D TV there, 3D TV here, 3D TV in your grandma's house. I don't know your grandma, man. Maybe I was right. I don't know. Was it in your grandma's house? Because it wasn't for me. Like, there was no 3D TV in my grandma's house, but there was a 3D TV in our house, and we barely ever used the 3D. But it was still really cool to have that option, just saying. And with 3D TVs popping off, guess what else was coming out in 3D? Video games. Yeah, that's right. There was a bunch of video games in 3D coming out. Hell, even Arkham Asylum came out in 3D at some point. There was an option for 3D. That's insane. You could beat up this guy, put him in a hospital in 3D as Batman. Holy shit. You could literally beat this guy to a pulp in 3D. Speaking of video games, guess what the next Nintendo system would be after Avatar's release? The 3DS, baby. Yeah, that's right. That is right, the 3DS. This system introduced a feature that brought the 3D without the glasses. You just flip a switch and there you go. We'll get back to that concept a little later. It's nothing too crazy, but just remember that concept. And not only were those popping off, but okay, check this out, okay? This is a screenshot of movies released in 3D in 2009. This is a screenshot of movies released in 3D in 2010, after Avatar's release. Look at the difference. That is significantly higher. Holy shit. But guess what? It doesn't even stop there, man, because now theme parks want to get in on that Avatar 3D hype cash. Jimmy Fallon the Ride was in 3D, horrible ride by the way. Transformers in 3D. New technology that makes stuff look like they're in 3D, but they actually aren't. Just like the 3DS. See, I told you we'd get there. We're not going to talk about that in depth though, so that was just kind of whack foreshadowing on my part. My bad. And yeah, honestly, this feature looks way better in person, but you know, you get the gist of it through this. Now, segue. Honestly, 3D is such a cool trick that humans came up with that was unfortunately ruined by hungry money. Money hungry mofos. Grr, you know? But when used correctly and appropriately, it can result in some amazing things. I mean, going back to the theme parks, right? They have proven to enhance one's experience rather than just to strain their eyes for no reason. Now, obviously, the recent Avatar movie didn't cause quite the stir that the first one did, but it did teach me one thing. With the right people involved, we can bring 3D back, baby. Imagine a Shark Boy and Lava Girl spin-off in 3D that's based off of Mr. Electric. Oh my god. Imagine the billions and millions of dollars that movie would make. Oh my god. Dude, I'd watch it. I'd buy it. I'd be their midnight premiere. You know what? Scratch that. I'd be there at the red carpet. You know what? Scratch that. I'd make the damn movie myself. Holy shit. That's amazing. Or maybe that's just a dream. Dream. That will never happen. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it and writing it and buying the Shark Boy and Lava Girl DVD with the 3D glasses. That's a lie. Actually, I had to buy the DVD separately because I didn't read the Facebook post saying that it didn't come with the 3D glasses. So I had to buy the 3D glasses separately. I spent a lot of money on it. So please give this video a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.